So I have some pinholes on my roof on my 56 cab. You can see right here. They're not large, but the entire piece needs to be cut out. There's also kind of an L shape. It goes under the drip rail. So I have to cut out where I can actually see some of the spot welds. I can't see them here very well because it's all rusted out. I'll do my best. But that's where I am right now. I'll cut that out, fabricate another piece, and replace this. Okay, once again a visual of what I've done so far. You can see I've drilled out the spot welds. Some of these, as you can see right here, they actually move around once you drill them out. One of them right here, you can see light through the bottom side of it because I actually went a little bit too far, but that's okay. I'll just plug weld that. So I'll start doing my cutting and seeing if I can get this off now. Here you can see a better view of the spot welds that I drilled out. This actually shows what's right beneath it, which is this part. And you see the little hole right there where I accidentally drilled a little bit too far. So now I'm gonna cut along this line and cut this little strip out, fabricate another piece, and shrink it to bend it accordingly, and see if we can get it tacked back in. So here's my fabricated piece that I have just lying in there right now. But an interesting thing I noticed, I don't know if you can see under there, but see how it doesn't quite touch the bottom up in the drip rail? This piece tends to lay flat on this side, but not on this side. And I couldn't figure out why for the life of me. I have a template that I created that matches the contour up top. And what I found out was underneath the drip rail, this actually curves slightly upward right here. So I created another template basically for the bottom angle. And you can kind of see the line here and it curves upward a little bit. So what I'll have to do with this piece that I fabricated, you can see this piece that I fabricated. What I'll have to do now is I need to basically shrink it up a little bit on this left-hand side to match this particular angle right here. See, notice how it's flat and it needs to go slightly up on this left-hand side toward my fingers. That's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, I use a Dremel tool to make that first horizontal cut. Now the difficult part obviously is cutting inside this channel here to get the vertical cut. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to take the cutoff wheel and cut through my drip rail all the way through, and then just clean that up and weld it up and grind it down after the fact. I have my vertical cuts in now. A little bit on the underside, I'll just have to clean that up. Let it cut through nicely. Now, one issue I have to deal with is the heat. When I ground this the first time, looks like it might have fused that back together, but I'll see if I can get that off. You can see here I'm getting underneath this to start peeling this off to coax it a little bit. You can see the bottom of the drip rail here. The bottom of the drip rail, I'm peeling that off. There's rust underneath it, so it doesn't want to come off easily, but as long as you get most of the spot weld, you should be able to peel this piece off. So I did want to share the progress on this, on getting this this off the drip rail. It's a messy process because there's so much rust here. It's hard to figure out where all of the spot welds are. So as I go, once it gives me resistance, that's where I know there's a spot weld, and I'll have to flatten it out, go back in there and drill it out again to continue. So just to let you know, be patient with this process. It's a lot of grunt work. So after getting most of it out, this is what I'm left with: a bunch of rust, dust, and a few areas like right there where I'm gonna have to grind that down. And obviously I'm gonna have to fix this again, clean all the channel out, and then proceed to weld my new piece in. Okay, you can see now I have the channel relatively cleaned out. A little bit of rust there. I still need to wire brush out manually. You can also see the one hole that I inadvertently left when I was drilling out the spot welds. After I put my new plate in, welded in, I'll just clean it up from the bottom side. Okay, so I finally have it fabricated the way I wanted. I had to add a little bit more there just to make it fit. You see it's a relatively small gap now. But also you can see how the V in the gutter lines up perfectly, lines up at the top. And looking on the back side, you see something very similar. It contours very nicely. It also comes down here, which was pretty complicated, especially for a noob like myself, but I'm pretty happy with the way it lays in there. I added, I don't know if you can see them, but I added some holes at the bottom. I'm actually going to put in the spot welds at the bottom instead of putting holes in the top. I'm just going to grind those down. So I'm going to tack weld it and see how she comes out. I wanted to take a real quick minute to give you guys some detail into the technique that I learned online to do this. So I started stitching on the left hand side, got that lined up as close as I could, perfectly plumb. I put a stitch wedge weld there. And as I went around, what I did is I stuck a little bitty screwdriver under here and kind of pried this out to perfectly line up the top to the bottom. And then I put a tack weld there. And that's what I do. I just keep on going around. These line up pretty well, but where it's underneath or over, the lip is over just a little bit, I'll stick the screwdriver in and I'll adjust it in and out accordingly to make sure that when I stitch weld this, that this is actually plumb to the top. And then what I'll do later on is I'll push this down with some clamps, and obviously from the bottom I will plug weld those in to mimic those spot welds that used to be in there. See the spot welds that I started putting in. Of special note, it's hard to tell because I paid special attention to where the old part starts and the new part mates up to it, because there's not a ridge in or out. I paid special attention to make sure it's plumb. Additionally, if you look in the valleys here, you'll notice that I paid special attention to lining that up. The screwdriver just slides right across it. Same thing on the valley on the other side. If I can get to focus in there, you'll notice that I paid special attention to it. Oh, not up there. And the screwdriver slides right across it. So now I'm going to start stitch welding the rest of it in. Okay, so here's the final product. You can see the channel walking around, and my graft comes in and goes around. So if you look down the line, it follows nicely. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it made it up. A little bit of seam sealer and maybe even some Bondo can clean up some minor imperfections, but all in all, the graft took, and it wasn't the easiest job in the world, but nonetheless it was rewarding to get it done.